going to show you the end result of this experiment, and then I'll show you all the steps I took to make it. The way this works is I have an extension that I've built called the Max CEP to AHK, whatever. I need to clean this up. And when I write file to AHK, when I do this, it writes a file onto the desktop. Obviously, there are much better ways of doing. I mean, you could use sessions, HTTP, but for now, this is the most convenient. And it puts these, the name of the current project's folder, some various other stuff in a text file. Then I have another AutoHotKey script right here that's running, and it's running in a loop. It's waiting to start this loop and look for it. And so start time function to watch for Premiere file. So I start that, and every second or two, it'll look for this file, and it'll load the first line into a variable. So this variable is ready to run a script to have Adobe Premiere do what I want it to do. So let's go so once we have these two things loaded, so I click on this, and now I want to do an export of the script. So now I'll hit send keystroke export to Adobe, and as you can see, it went through. So now when we click on to the file name, you see it puts it in the right folder. It doesn't put it in the last folder, it puts it in the folder of the current project. So that's what this this little system does. Okay, I'm going to take you through the Adobe CEP or CEP, whatever you call it, framework as I understand it. Again, I would go read their stuff first, but if you've read it and you're a little confused, maybe something I say will help, though I may be inaccurate in certain things, so copy and enter. Okay, so this is where all their main stuff is here. And I'm always getting lost, the resources, getting started guides, the samples, so let's just skip that, but this is where you should go. So the way I understand it is an extension is an HTML page that calls a JavaScript libraries, can call JavaScript libraries that are in the Ceph framework, the Chromium framework. You can access Node.js, jQuery through it. I haven't done that, but anyway, that's how it works. So you can build essentially an extension. If nothing else, you can build a little web app in a little window in any Adobe app. And you can have it do almost everything that a normal web app can do. There's some limitations for security, but that's my understanding. Then, also in the extension, there's another library that's also written in a subset of JavaScript, which I'll call ExtendScript, and which I think everybody calls ExtendScript. And ExtendScript is an Adobe JavaScript library that has hooks into the application's API, which I showed you previously with that screen of the potential things you can call. So anyway, the ExtendScript API. And then sitting on top of this, so the whole Adobe CEP platform is really like an app or library or something in Adobe, right, that sits there, its own little application. And when you start an extension, it builds basically a web browser interface for you to put your little web app, and then it has a hook right into the application, in this case Premiere, right, that if you call through your JavaScript an ExtendScript function to do something that's supported by the API, it will do it in that in the application. And then all these files and this whole project of the extension, Adobe needs to know where everything is, and you put that in an XML file called the manifest file. So we'll go through this right now. So here's a typical directory of an Adobe extension. I'm not using exactly the way they use it, but anyway. So you have to, I do know this, you have to put the manifest in a CSXS folder, and it looks something like, where's the manifest? Like this. So you give your extension a name, and then you also give it a subname, which they recommend .panel as your, the page extension. I don't know, I sort of just followed what they said. So I'm calling this Max CEP to AHK as the extension name for the whole thing, and then for the actual window app, it's the same thing, .panel. In the main path will be the HTML page, the front page for your little extension. And then the script path is where you have where your starting point for all your ExtendScript APIs are. And so here, if that, I'm putting that in the JSX directory, you can see I just named it my own thing. I only put one function to keep things very simple. File, I don't understand any of this other stuff. And then here's a panel, and the size of it, the menu is the title of the panel. Now I hate to really just dump on Adobe. I don't want to do that here, but really some of this stuff is just mind-boggling to me. So when you open an extension, you can't name the window here. It's not like a real window. I don't know what they do in Adobe. They have their own windows, but there's no way to name this. You have a name here. It just looks completely ugly. And it looks, why can't you put a name here in the window box? I don't know. Anyway, I just want to show you that again, this is a very limited framework. It's very half-baked. So you just have to accept it and move on, which I'm having trouble doing. Anyway, okay, so all right, so back to the manifest. Again, in here you can't change that window title. You can only change that little menu thing below it. And okay. Okay, so the manifest. So we have the manifest that basically tells the Adobe, the extension manager, where the files are, where your JavaScript files start, and where its ExtendScript file starts. They provide a library called the CS interface, and this is just a helper library, basically an intermediary middle person between the your JavaScript and the ExtendScript library. Now here's the index, here's the page, and so on your front page you would, to do anything, to call that API, you would call that interface, you create an object of the interface, and then you could have it evaluate a function in your ExtendScript to do something. So in my case, my ExtendScript is just this little file. So you can see it basically says, go to the desktop, get the file, get the app project path from Premiere, create some strings out of this, and just write the strings to the file. You've seen this is what it writes out. So I only have one function here. In an ExtendScript. One thing I want to point out is I got tied up here because I haven't worked in JavaScript for a while, so I thought that this is how you declared a function with the dump all presets, : function, but I guess it's probably jQuery, so it wasn't working, it was erroring. Again, this is just because I don't know I don't remember what I'm doing here. So it took me a while to figure that out, but it brings up an important point in that a problem dealing with these extensions is debugging them. So it took me a while to figure that out. But what I've sort of standardized on or felt the most helpful in the JavaScript section, in the JavaScript section you can basically just create, well, I have it in the wrong place here. You can just create a debug file that will send the hostname, in this case Premiere Pro, to port 888. So if I'm running my extension, I don't know if this will work now. I think it'll work. So if I'm running my extension there, and I go to localhost 8088, yeah, it's not working. But anyway, normally it would work. I must not have compiled the debug file into the extension this time. Anyway, that's what I would recommend for debugging the web app portion of your extension. So anyway, that worked. So I could open up, the DOM Explorer, JavaScript Explorer of Chrome, and look at all that and figure out that problem. The ExtendScript was the harder part, and what I found actually that was the easiest for me to do was to run Adobe's ExtendScript toolkit. Now, this is something that confused me early on watching other people's videos, because many people in these other videos were like, oh, this is deprecated, Adobe's not using this anymore, move to Visual Code. And I think they were giving Adobe the benefit of the doubt, but it wasn't warranted. As I said, I mean, doing this in Visual Studio is just way too complicated. And this is much, much easier because it's still there. I mean, they still have it. I think they're still sort of working on it, even though they say they're not. So it's just easier in here to go into a and there's another interesting thing that bugs all over the place. Like it now shows Premiere Pro 2020, and I think the latest Premiere Pro installed, but if I try and go to it, it says no. So while I'm here, let me just go on to I'm sorry I cannot stop from ranting on this stuff, but like the new Creative Cloud desktop app, they need to have some real people using this and saying to them, no, this is not making sense. Like, look at this, Photoshop version 2006 and then 2101. Update this, open, which one is which? Which one is new? Which one should I be using? Which one is 2020? Is both of them 20? Is this 21? I mean, it's just, this stuff gets even more confusing. Anyway, so on Premiere, there are, I don't know which one. I see that you can open both of these. I have both of these. I would assume version 14 is 2020, which is ExtendScript is saying, but it's not, or it is. And it's not. Who knows? Anyway, moving on. So let's just go to Premiere Pro 2019, which I know will work. So if we go into my library, when I was having problems with this, so I was having some problems with some of this stuff. So let me just take, when I was creating the variables, and actually just basic JavaScript stuff I was just having trouble with. So I ran that, it ran fine, but so on this I had something like a forward slash, and see if that does it. No, that worked too. So, oh no, I know what it is. So I had, where I was just checking what string I was actually creating. When I did it here, see, nothing came out. So I was able to use the ExtendScript toolkit to figure that out. So that's what I'm using right now. Should I dare say recommend it? Anyway, that's how I'm doing it. Again, the first thing is to make sure the manifest is correct. I had a bug here. Took a couple hours to figure out. Get to that later. Anyway, so you have the manifest correct. Then to debug your JavaScript, you can just use the the Chromium developer once you have the debug file in there through a web port. Or if you're smarter than me, you can use Visual Code. And then for the Adobe ExtendScript portion, the portion where you're actually calling the API, you get it figured out first in ExtendScript. Make sure it's running here, then put it into your app. And through that workflow, I found that I was able to deal with creating the CEP extension. We're now going to move on to, so you have everything right. You have your index file or your web page, front page. You have your web app JavaScript working the way you want it. You have your ExtendScript working the way that you want it. They're put together, and now you need to compile them into a file that Adobe can use to put on a person's or your application extension list. And the way you do that, so here's all the code here. Sorry, let me put here's all the code here, and then what I've done, at least for me, is I've put I put all the helper stuff in the root directory, and I have a little file here where, and this will be included in the description for you to help. The first thing you need to do is you need to run create yourself a certificate that makes the extension look legitimate. Now, people say, well, you can just take all those files and put them in the program 86 common whatever folder, and Adobe will see the extension. Well, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I think because it's missing the MIME folder, whatever it is, I wouldn't bother with that. Just compile your extensions using Adobe and have it and then use an extension manager to put in the app, and you'll save yourself a lot of grief. Okay, so like I said, I have all the things here. So I have just a quick bat to open PowerShell. So here, if we, well, I'll just do it right here. So I have the first thing we need to do is create our little digital certification. So I'd create a digital certification, and that's basically just this command right here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to PowerShell. And, you know, you can just look at the help. So you just run this thing with self-signed cert, just, you know, where you are, your name, my name, dummy password, and then the file that you're going to create. And then you run that, and then it'll create a file in your directory, which is right here. You can see today's date. It's not 3 p.m. But whatever. So it creates this file right here, which you use later to create your ZXP file. So once you've done that, you only need to do it once. Then you need to create your path. So I just create a thing here where I can just fill in these root paths with what I want, and then this will create the ZXP file, which is just a zip file. And let me just prove that to you. Let me just rename this to. So if you just want to see what's in the file, just name it zip. You can see it's just a zip file. You know, this is just like, you know, ebooks and stuff like this. They all do this stupid thing. Anyway, I'm going to just delete this because it seems like Adobe doesn't overwrite it when you run the script. So go in here. I've already put in the pass. I'm going to copy this. So it's basically ZXP sign command, sign it. The code is in this folder, code. I'm going to create, this is the file name I want to create, maxcepthkzxp. And this is the password, this is the signing stuff. So this is the certificate I have, and my password is actually, I call this my dummy password. So I need to update this. It's not password now, it's my dummy password, which I did for the sake of this tutorial. My dummy password. And then it needs to have a timestamp, so you need to just call a site that will do it. These checks, okay, so I didn't, when I created the certificate, I don't think I didn't use this, my dummy password, or maybe it didn't overwrite it. That's probably what happened. Didn't overwrite it. So let's actually go, remember I was saying that's 12.5 is wrong. So I'm going to go delete this. I'm going to go back to where I created the password. Okay, now it should have created that file. And it did, so here it is. And now we have my dummy password as the password. So I'm going to go to the to where I create the file. So I zip up the file. And I run that. That you've entered the correct password. Okay. My dummy password, isn't that what it was? My dummy password. Go back to what I had. The first ones that I created. It shouldn't be this. Oops. No, that's right. Huh, that's weird. It's still using the password I had from the first one. This is going to turn into a bug later on, I'm sure. I forget. Anyway, okay, so I've now created the ZXP file, which is an extension. Now I need to load it into Adobe. Now there are a few ways of doing this. So people have made the GUIs. So there's a ZXP installer, and I was using this for a while, but then I had this problem where it said it couldn't read the contents or something, and I was like pulling my hair out trying to figure it out. And then I found this this guy had this wasn't on their site, but where's his name? And he's David Baranka. David Baranka had done I did a thing where you have all the error codes. So I couldn't find this in Adobe site. I found it on his blog. And I was getting the error code negative 172. No, it was 17. Which one was it? Field? It was one of these. It doesn't make a difference. It's something to 170 something. Anyways, one of these, and I couldn't figure it out what it was, and this program wasn't bringing it back to me. So there's another extension manager. Anastasia's extension manager. Okay, so there's another one you can use, this one, and this is actually very nice. You can install and remove various extensions. And here under Premiere Pro, you can see my extension. So when I tried to install here, it gave an error that conformed to David's error sheet and was able to figure it out. What ultimately it was, and again, it took me a couple of hours, on this bracket somehow was missing. I don't know how it happened. I hit the whatever or something, and it wouldn't install the ZXP. But the error was not like your XML is unformed. It was weirder than that. Which I'm just gonna close and not save it. Anyway, so that was the error that took a while. So it matters which extension manager you're going to use, or you can obviously just use Adobe's command prompt. I think I have that in here as a yeah. So here it is. If you just use their xman command, you can use that to install the extension, and you can also do it through the cloud, of course, for desktop development or whatever. I'm not going to go that route. I'm just going to do it natively. So that's it. That's how you you build and install your Adobe extension into a product like Premiere. Let's start from the top again. What the system does, and actually now doing this, I sort of now see one of the things that got me confused for the longest time, and I'm hoping I can explain it to you so you can avoid similar confusion. Excuse me, I keep losing my voice. In our, as I said, we want to talk between the our JavaScript, our web app, and our extend script. In our manifest, Adobe wants to know where our extend script is, but we can't actually talk to the extend script directly. I wish the manifest had another line which is crucial. I guess you don't totally need it. You could take stuff out of CS interface file, but why would you want to? Because they're always updating. Anyway, so it's in the index file in your web app that you reference the helper JavaScript library to the extend script library. It's not in the manifest, it's here. So in the script here under the web page, you see it's .lib CS interface JS. So when I run my function down right here, I call this library from the web page, from the web app, and it then will go talk to the extend script file, which is referenced in the manifest. And this was what was really confusing me. Again, if as I was doing it, I'd rather just have actually the manifest have everything, and this was confusing me. So again, let me go through it again. Your web page references helper JavaScript function, which is the CS interface. And this stuff basically just talks to the Adobe container to run whatever your extend script file is that will call the API. From the top again, in our manifest file, we put in the name of our extension. We put in the starting web page, which in this case is index.html. We tell it where we want our JavaScript extend script library to start to access the API. In our index file, we put in a reference to our JavaScript helper file that will talk to the extend script file in up here in the script, and we'll create an interface through it that will actually talk to our extend script file, which we have here. We program this, we debug it in extend script debugger. Once we're all set, we create our little extension, and then that will run in here. So we'll just load this extension. Window extensions. So we load our extension and we click on this button. It's going to run this function, which saves all the Premiere project stuff, or some of the stuff that I want to save into this file that looks like this. Now from there, once we do that, we have another application running in AutoHotKey. So in AutoHotKey, And I'm very new to AutoHotKey, so excuse me if you see a bunch of stuff that's done poorly. I had a text box. Well, let's actually just run this thing so you can see it side by side. So I'm going to do Control Run. So I do a text box waiting to start. You can see that right here. I do another text box with the project. It's going to take the project name. It's here. There's nothing in it. Then I add a button to start timer. You can see that. I add another button to send keystrokes to the timer. Say, okay, now I have a function here, wait for CEP file request. And that would be run. So you put a G in front of it and a button. It's a weird label thing. It'll start this function. So when you press this button, it'll start this function. It will say the Premiere file we want is in the desktop here. We start a timer. And then if the file exists, we're going to say we found it, and we're going to file readline the first line. And then we're going to put it actually into our control. So we'll just do that right here. When I hit this button, it's going to run all of this, run this function right here. So here you see timer check 1, and that's from this GUI control from the timer. So every 1 second, found the file name, and then it put the first line into this text box. Now we have a second button here, gsend keys Premiere export, and then here's the function for that. When we hit that button, if the Adobe Premiere app isn't activated, activate it. Now we're going to send input, the Shift F4 to open up the program window, because if that's not open first, it won't work for weird reason. And then I have to put sleeps in here because Adobe Premiere is very sluggish, and if it doesn't catch up, then the script fails. So put these liberal timeout in sleeps to do it. Control settings. Again, it's weird that when it opens a window, somehow it's not the central focus of in Windows. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on with Premiere Pro. Anyway, I need to basically say, hey, make sure the application's active again, and then go into the export Windows settings, get the control for that for the first text box, and let me. I'm sure there's a better way to do this that maybe I'll figure out later, but for now, explain sort of what it's doing. All right, see, the program window has to be active, export, media. Okay. So what the script essentially does is it looks for this comment box. It gets the mouse position here. It uses it to go down to here to click on that thing. So that's basically what the script is doing. It does that. Then when it gets control of the box, so when it clicks on here, then for here it sends input the line, which is the first line in that script file, which I have. So it sends this. So I'll just copy this manually and show you. So in here, we'll just put here, right? And I'll do save. And now here you can see it saves that file name to the folder that's in that. So it's all done at once the way Premiere does it, which again is the wrong way. Anyway, so that's how the AutoKey script works. Okay, well, I apologize that my screens got all off-center and you couldn't see them all in the video, but I just don't have time to make them all. So it's already running too long. Anyway, I just want to finish up and just mention a few other things. I was helped greatly by Eli Portel, who has this Premiere on Script YouTube channel and a blog, and many of these videos are very helpful. So if you can do any extension development in Premiere, or probably any Adobe product, I highly recommend these videos. Here he is. And then the second thing is Taryn Van Hemert does, he has this 4-hour video tutorial, and he takes AutoHotKey to the limit with Premiere, and Premiere to the limit. He has some amazing stuff. I don't have time to go through it, but I could definitely see, maybe I'll do it or somebody do it, extending this proof of concept where I could imagine like just having an extension that would would call all of Taryn's amazing AutoHotKey scripts to deal with many of Premiere's annoyances. So maybe some of you'll do that. I'll do, who knows, whatever. Anyway, his approach to Premiere is always in the back of my mind when I was doing this. Secondly, AHK Studio, AutoHotKey Studio. I don't know what this guy's name is, but this is really nice source code editor, launcher, whatever, to write the AutoHotKey stuff that I was doing. And finally, thank you to Rekha Shah and Guest 3456 in helping me deal with getting Hotkey to talk to Premiere, because maybe I'm wrong about this, but the way Adobe Premiere handles Windows and many things is not the usual Windows type stuff. They go their own way in certain things. So when you click on a window, Windows doesn't see it as a window. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I got around it, and thanks to them. And I hope you found this tutorial helpful, this proof of concept. Any questions, please let me know. And good luck with your extension writing.